Hi everyone, my name is Payanna and welcome to my book club. And I'm really happy because today I am coming back with book 7 in the Temeraire series. I'm getting through it. There are two more to go, and I will have finished the series. And oh my god. So I'm not going to recap the entire series at this point. I have a whole playlist devoted to the whole series, all 6 books prior to this one, which I'll link. You'll see. But so at the end of book 6, Temeraire, who is a dragon, who is the dragon who gave his name to this series, and his captain Laurence, who have been sent to Australia to establish a dragon colony there because they didn't have dragons in Australia. After all the events of book 6, where they followed a group of smugglers all the way across the Australian territory, and to find that it led to a rather awkward situation at the end, where that Laurence, at this point, he has his own land and he's sorting it out with Temeraire, so they're growing crops. Temeraire is building a pavilion for himself, and they're pretty settled. They're doing okay. They're living very different lives than they were before, but they are doing okay. So at the beginning of the book, an ambassador called Hammond turns up and gives Laurence a letter. He is to be reinstated into the British Aerial Corps in order to travel to South America to try and defeat the African army, the African dragons that Napoleon has sent to Rio in order to try and invade South America. So these are the African dragons we got to see in book 4, Empire of Ivory. And at the end of the book, the African dragons had started attacking the ports, the slave ports, in order to recapture the people that had been taken from them. And this is what they agreed. This is why they agreed to team up with Napoleon and go all the way to Rio, because Napoleon said, hey, you know where your people have been taken? America. So they agreed to travel there to try and set their people free. And Laurence is asked to go over there and try and sort this out with Temeraire and Granby and Izquierda. The fire-breathing dragon is still there, along with the new dragon who belongs to one of the African boys who left South Africa to come and be part of Laurence's crew, incidentally. So there are 3 massive dragons. So they all get on board the ship that always takes them everywhere, this ship, with Captain Riley. And they are to travel across the Pacific to get to America, to get South America. Only the ship sinks due to a very poor crew who just, they start a fire and it all goes horribly wrong. So they end up shipwrecked in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And they try and save as many people as possible, pack them into the dragon, like their nets they carry, and try and survive flying across the ocean. Eventually, they come to land on a French transport vessel, so a French vessel that is travelling across the Pacific. And at this point, they are so exhausted. They've been flying for days without food and water. They can't put up a fight, so they just surrender. And on board this ship, there is a French ambassador called Deguine, who now has a dragon, who seems very proud of this, which is not something people are normally proud of, but he is very proud of having his dragon, and also an Inca dragon, who takes a rather, he seems to rather like Izquierda. He takes a fancy for her. So that happens. They are essentially prisoners on board the ship until the French decide to leave them on a desert island whilst they go to settle some kind of agreement with the Incan Empire. So much happens. Like I'm going through the big headlines here because this is a Temeraire book and there's never 4 seconds without something insane happening. So anyway, they find a pirate ship wrecked on this island with a map and discover they can actually make it to land. So they do. They make it to the Incan Empire and meet the local people and the local dragons. And again, Naomi Novik has explored yet another side of how you could possibly incorporate dragons into this kind of world. So in the Incan Empire, they first believe that the dragons are slave owners, that they own the people of the land, because that's how they appear to function. Dragons are in charge of the people there. They're the leaders, and they have all these people that are essentially their slaves. Although they're more like protectors than actual slavers. So they very quickly get problems because Izquierka swipes up a man. Obviously she doesn't know that he technically belongs to someone who is under someone's protection, because the more people the dragons have in their charge, obviously the higher their status. So having someone stolen from them is obviously a big affront. Izquierka has to fight the champion dragon in an arena in order to gain possession of this man. They ask this man what he would like them to do, like if they could set him free, where he would like to go, and he wants to go he used to live, I think 2 weeks away. And so they're like, oh God, if we have to take him on this great big long journey. But they do. Izquierka has this insane battle that she wins, and then they have to take this man all the way back to his home next to Lake Titicaca, where they meet the head dragon of the area, of the lake. And this lake is the land around this lake is owned by this one supreme dragon and all her offspring. And one of her daughters takes a liking to the ambassador Hammond, who's still with them, and decides to accompany them to see the Incan Empress. And Izquierka, Izquierka is always getting up to mischief, but in this book, it goes a long way, and it actually gets pretty funny. So they end up traveling all the way to meet the Incan Empress at the capital, but they meet some French people on the way. So obviously, this is where the French ship they were on, this is where they were heading to make an alliance with the Incan Empress. And they get there, and they eventually, like I said, the little Incan dragon who was on the ship, who took a liking to Izquierka, is obviously really happy to have her back, introduces her to the Empress, and eventually introduces everyone else. She arranges, because Izquierka is now pretty famous because she defeated the champion dragon in the arena. She's now pretty famous. This is quite an achievement. This dragon hadn't been defeated for a very long time. He's a very powerful dragon, and she just whammed. And so she's really famous now. And this is a great achievement for her. So she goes to meet the Empress. And they discover that Emperor Napoleon has divorced from Josephine, so now he's available to marry. And is he going to marry? Is this what these French ambassadors are there for? Is he there to kind of settle an agreement and get Napoleon to marry the Incan queen, or the Incan empress? Izquierka, however, has other ideas, and she negotiates for the Empress to marry her captain, Granby, which is, like I said, it gets very amusing. He's not too happy about this, funnily enough. He doesn't want to be an emperor because he doesn't like women. Turns out he's gay, and he doesn't actually want to get married. He's perfectly happy with being a captain and having a dragon. That's all he ever wanted. And yeah, it gets very weird. He does end up getting very angry with Izquierka and just saying, look, I'm fed up with you, always doing whatever you want, just, I'm in charge, shut up. And so that was quite funny. And then Napoleon arrives on the back of Lien, who's still around. Lien is their biggest enemy. She's also a Chinese celestial, like Temeraire. and she blames Temeraire and Laurence for the death of her master, so she is out to get them, basically, and she's teamed up with Napoleon in just the prospect of trying to get at them somehow, and she's done very well for herself. And so she, being such an important imperial dragon, she's come all the way over to South America with Napoleon, and they're there to negotiate his wedding with the Empress. And Laurence and his party get booted out quite severely. The whole army comes to attack them. They send dragons and they chase them all the way out of the country. They have to cross the Amazon rainforest with a number of injuries. Esquirca gets injured. Granby is injured all this time. Actually, he's had a broken arm. I think, which dates back to when the ship wrecked, and it's getting pretty bad. He ends up having his arm amputated. And they finally get to Rio, and when they get to Rio, they discover that the African dragons are indeed the ones they met in South Africa, and the ones who abducted Laurence in South Africa. So, including the missionary's wife who went back to her tribe, the freed slave who became a missionary's wife and went back to her tribe in Africa. She's also there. So we get to see like characters from previous novels, which is nice. And the problem with this is they kind of come across a massive moral dilemma, because Laurence and his men agree that slavery is wrong and that it shouldn't be. So obviously they can't like oppose themselves to the African dragons who have come to free the slaves, but they are allied with the French. So it creates this interesting moral dilemma. And obviously they're in Brazil, which is allied, where the Portuguese Prince Regent is, and Portugal is allied to Britain. So they find themselves in this really interesting political dilemma, where they have friends on both sides and technically enemies on both sides, because obviously the Portuguese people, officials, want to keep slavery in place because that's how they make their money. But they're their allies, and you know, the Africans want to free the slaves, but they're allied with the French. So it all gets very weird. And it's great. Naomi Novik's really good at kind of putting these really massive dilemmas into place. How do they work their way out of it? Well, I don't know, I haven't been this obsessed with a series since Harry Potter. It is so good. I'm so happy to read this. I love Naomi Novik now. I think is absolutely officially my favourite author. What with the whole Temeraire series and Uprooted, I have 2 other novels of hers to read on top of the last 2 in the Temeraire series, which I have just ordered, so I should be getting them soon. I also think she's got another one coming out. I'm so obsessed. I love this series. It's so brilliant. It's so good. I think I'm going to be genuinely heartbroken when it's over, because it's a 9-book long series. It is quite a long series, but I'm nearly at the end now. And I really want to know what happens next, but I think I will be genuinely sad when this adventure, this wonderful literary adventure, is over. So thoughts on book 7. Yeah, it's still as good. It's still as brilliant. I did like it more. Officially so far, book 6, the one where they have to travel all the way through Australia, it was good. I enjoyed it, but it is the one that I enjoyed the least out of all of them. This one is so much better. It's so good. I love the way the Incan dragons look after their people. A lot of the crew that are left over from the Allegiance sinking actually join the dragons. Like, they become members of their people herds, I guess, in the Incan Empire. And they're only too pleased to have them. You know, it's new blood, it's more hands, they enlarge their workforce. So everyone's happy about this. And obviously, you know, even Laurence and the crews are happy to see these men who have just been nothing but problems leave. So, I thought it was great. I really thought it was great. So good. So at the end, there are some English dragons who come over to fight off the French slash African dragons. However, they decide to steal some of the French transport ships and sail away this way. They also make quite an interesting discovery about Temeraire's chef, that he is very, very close to the Chinese imperial family. And this comes as quite a big surprise to Laurence, who thinks he might be a spy. He's not a spy, and he insists that they come back to China. So that's how the book ends. They leave on a ship, or all the British dragons, and go to China, and Temeraire's supremely happy about getting to show them all around China. So it's quite a beautiful ending for this rather beautiful series. Well, not series, but this beautiful novel. In any case, it's a rather beautiful ending, and we have hopes for book 8, definitely. So that's it for my video about Temeraire. I hope you enjoyed it. This was book 7, Crucible of Gold by Naomi Novik. And I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.